Hello, teachers and students. This is Unit 2, Week 3, Lesson 2 of the Middle School ENL Standalone curriculum. So this is Lesson 3.2 of Unit 2. So the big moments of today's lesson, the 5 moments, will be the opening do now routine, the before reading, followed by the text, and after the reading activity, and a closing and connecting. Please note the notes for teachers down here at the bottom, which will give some suggestions on how to modify and differentiate for your specific classes. Some tech considerations for this lesson. During the video, we will go over the opening and do now routine, as well as the anticipation guide. After that, we'll send students off to work on the text annotation and discussion questions led by teachers, as well as the anticipation guide, post-reading, as well as any closing and connecting questions, teachers, that you may choose to add in based on what works best for your students. Because there is a lot of writing, it may be opportune to create a Google Slides presentation to share in Google Classroom or a Google document that houses all of the writing elements for this lesson where students can follow along. You can also opt to use tools like Kami, Markup, or other PDF marking tools. Those are linked here in the presentation. And the document version is available along with the audio file on TeachHub in the lesson folder. And with that, let's start our lesson together. All right, so for the essential question, how do families contribute to a community? How do families contribute to a community? We're going to read a text called Life in the 1870s. This is an informational text. If someone would read the lesson objectives, please, out loud. All right, awesome. So we will read a text closely in order to make logical inferences, and we will participate in a wide range of discussions with our peers, building on the ideas of others. So the first thing we're going to do is we see a picture here. We learned last lesson about Natalie Gumpertz. This is her daughter, Olga. So we're going to write some sentences. What do you see in this photo of Natalie? What do you think might be going on here? What is something that you observe or can predict? And what do you wonder about this photo of Natalie? So go ahead and pause the video here and write those sentences down where your teacher would like you to write them. Okay, let's move on. So I wrote some sentences based on what I saw, what I thought, and what I wondered. So what do you see? I see that Olga is wearing a hat. So this is a hat here. It's a pretty big hat, so she's wearing a hat. What do I think? I think that her jacket is made of fur, so I look here. This looks like fur to me. So I made that observation about what I think. What do I wonder? I wonder where she was going in this outfit. Now we're going to get ready for our reading. This is the exciting stuff. So we're going to read 3 statements below, and in the left column, we're going to write whether or not we agree. So that's yes, we think it's correct, or we disagree. We don't think it's correct, or it doesn't make sense. We should also be thinking about why we agree or disagree and be prepared to share with our class or our teacher. So you can pause after each statement to answer. And the reason we are doing this is that we will read the text closely to draw conclusions about what life was like for the Gumpertz family. Some vocabulary that's here would be contribute and economy. You can always click on these to see the definitions if they're in blue like that. But let's start with number 1. Life was easier for children in the 1870s. Life was easier for children in the 1870s? Please pause the video and write here on whatever paper your teacher would like you to use. You can say if you agree or disagree and why. So I agree because blank, or I disagree because blank. Please pause the video now and work on number 1. Okay? Number 2, women typically worked in the 1870s. Women typically worked in the 1870s. So do you agree? Do you think that women worked or not? So if you agree, yes, or disagree, no, write that right here and explain here. Pause the video now to do that. All right, last one here. The conditions of the 1870s, so the conditions, so that can mean the living conditions, the conditions as a whole, were different than today. So the conditions of the 1870s were very different than today. Remember, if there's any of these words that you don't understand, you can go and look them up. All right, pause the video here and tell us whether you agree or disagree and why. All right. So now, teachers and students, you're going to dive into the reading together. So the recording is right here. There's a PDF version of the text right here. Students, make sure you check with your teacher whether or not this is posted in Google Classroom or wherever else you find your assignments. While you read, make sure to annotate and take notes and think about these questions. How does the charity ledger help us understand life in the 1870s? Who might have been able to help Natalie and Julius? And look back at guiding question number 5, so that'll be in your text. Why do you think people might have felt that way? All right, students, it's time to start reading.